Hey, friends, gentlemen. So here it is, May 5th. Happy Cinco de Mayo to all of you who celebrate that kind of thing. So if you've been following along here, you know that my plan was to start doing these videos. Actually, I was thinking several times a week, and it's been a couple weeks maybe. And I want to explain to you why that is because it plays into the topic at hand. So about the time I started doing these periscopes, maybe a little bit before, I I made a mistake. As many of you know, I run an organization called Cross to Crown Ministries, just a small Christian ministry, and I accidentally wiped our entire website. Like, no kidding, gone. The entire thing gone. We had a bookstore of over 40 books on there. We had, I can't begin to tell you how many hours worth of audio and video teaching, years and years worth of John Bunyan conferences from John Riesinger, and hours of sermons. We had years of a newsletter that John Riesinger and friends had written, and on it goes. We had hired somebody years ago in 2010, 11, somewhere in there, to design this website, and he spent weeks, months designing it all, and in one button click, I wiped it out completely. Uh, and I thought I knew what I was doing. I was being very careful not to hit that button, and I didn't hit the button, but it's just gone. So I wanted to tell you that and explain why I haven't been following through on these periscopes like I had promised, but also it plays into what I want to talk about, which is productivity. We have been talking about, if you've been following along, what the Bible calls us as men to do. And the first thing we started with at any length here is to produce. And taking from Genesis 2:15, to cultivate. Adam was put in the garden. He's told to cultivate the garden. And I prefer the term produce. It means basically the same thing. So we're trying to produce something. So, what does that have to do with me destroying the entire Cross to Crown website? Well, the reason I haven't had time for the periscopes in the last few weeks is because I have spent every spare moment rebuilding the Cross to Crown website. Now, again, I didn't do the original one. We had a professional do it, but we don't have the money right now to hire someone or the time. And I know something about website design, not because I've done it a lot, but in year 1999 is when my family and I moved here to Colorado Springs, and we moved away from St. Louis, where my family was from. And it was early on in the internet days, and in order to keep my family up to date on what was happening with our family here in Colorado Springs, we moved out here, no kids, and then we started having children. And in order to keep our family back home aware of what was going on, I taught myself, I learned HTML. I don't know if taught myself is the right language, but I read about it, I studied, I practiced. Back then, you didn't have something like WordPress. If any of you have ever built a website, you know WordPress and some of those kinds of behind the scenes uh, infrastructures allow you pretty easily to create a website now. But back then, you had to code everything. And so I learned to code HTML at least well enough to have a family website where I had different pages and one for each kid and put pictures up there and that kind of thing. And I would spend several hours every Saturday afternoon learning and then producing a website so that my family back home could keep tabs on what was happening with my children here in Colorado Springs. Fast forward to the last 3 weeks, I destroy the Cross to Crown website accidentally. I decide I need to get something up right away. Now, WordPress has made it a whole lot easier, and of course there are many other tools like WordPress, but WordPress has made it a lot easier than it used to be, but you still need to know something about HTML to nuance it a bit and to fix some problems, because invariably you don't just plug something in, there's always some complications, and if you don't know anything about HTML, then you're searching for help from someone else. So this website that I am creating for Cross to Crown Ministries, the reason I'm able to do it is because 20 years ago, I learned HTML coding, and now I can apply that here. I can produce this website. So the point is, as we are striving to be men who produce things, part of what it requires is constant learning. We have to be learning. We have to be studying. We have to expand our talent stack, as Scott Adams calls it. We have to constantly be learning new skills and improving the skills that we have. So we have to study, we have to read, we have to experience. We live in a day where you can find just everything on YouTube pretty much to learn how to do this and that and the other thing. If you want to be more productive, a better producer, you got to be learning, which takes time and focus and dedication. Let me give you another example. Back in the early 90s, shortly after I got married, I was pursuing a music career. And in order to do that, the options back then were pretty much either move to Nashville or LA, one of the big regions for entertainment, that kind of thing, and maybe New York would have been in that class, but Nashville was the big one. Your options were that or to build your own recording studio. And so we chose to do that, me and some friends. But starving musicians, you probably heard of that. Starving artists, we didn't have any money, so we decided to start a business and make money and build a studio. And we started a sound and lighting company. We installed audiovisual equipment, sound systems, light systems, all those kind of things for churches and for theaters and so on. Well, so it was my wife and I and this other couple. We were best friends. We got a duplex together and each lived in one half of the duplex. And then the basement of our side was the laundry room and rec room. And the basement of their side was the office for our company. And I knew a lot about music, but I was the least knowledgeable when it came to audiovisual equipment at the time. So, and somebody had to run the business because you can't just have the products, you have to run the business part. So I sort of by default, because I had the less experience than my partner in the AV equipment, I had to learn business. So my options there were, again, I could get an MBA, pursue education, but I didn't have any money and I didn't want to do that. That wasn't my goal. So I basically taught myself. I got, a stack of IRS publications that were this high and read them cover to cover, top to bottom, over and over again. I bought all kinds of books, got all kinds of books. I can't even remember how many from the library, studying business, both on the accounting and the legal side, also on marketing and running a business and all those kinds of things, because we had to do that part right. My friend had all the skill and knowledge in the world of the intricacies of sound systems and lighting systems and those kind of things. And I could go help him, but he really knew the stuff. I had to learn the business part. And I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much that when my friend got a call from Willow Creek, the huge church in Chicago, and they wanted him to go and run their technical department, I was able to come alongside a friend of mine who I had met at a church plant who owned a construction and home remodeling business. And he was a very good craftsman, but he didn't know anything about business, and he wasn't up on his taxes and those kind of things. He asked me to come along and run his business for him. And again, for me, this was all on the trajectory of the desire to make it in music. But I had to make a living, and until then, and so I was able to run this home remodeling business because I had learned business and taxes and all those kinds of things. So fast forward to today. Number one, this helps me understand, even in a church and now in Cross the Crown Ministries, in both cases, they require, accounting. They require keeping track of profit and loss and that kind of thing. To whatever degree we have expenses and that kind of sort of thing. So there are a lot of pastors that don't really appreciate the business accounting side of running churches and organizations. But more personally, during this quarantine, I have been studying businesses, reading lots of income statements and balance sheets and cash flow statements, because as the stock market has crashed and burned, now's a good time for me in my with my lifestyle to invest some money in businesses. And I'm not looking to become a stock trader. I'm not looking to be out there constantly making moves, but I want to find good, solid businesses that right now are selling at a significant discount, with the expectation that they will get back on their feet and will head in an upward direction for the years to come. Uh, that kind of accounting and business knowledge is not something that everybody has. I'm hoping to produce more money with my money by investing wisely, and it took my all those hours of studying business and businesses back in the early 90s is now adding to my ability, hopefully, to produce today in the stock market. So again, the point is, if we as men are going to be better producers, which is part of what we're called to be as men, we've got to be learning. We've got to be studying. We've got to be pursuing new areas of knowledge and then do something with it. And it's very easy to just get busy, and we feel like we're productive because we are busy. But if there's nothing that you can hold in your hands, or at least virtually show for your work, then you haven't done anything. You haven't produced anything. And that we got to be about that. And that really starts with, or at least a big part of the production is learning. So my short admonition to you today is uh, figure out what you want to produce and what God has given you the opportunity to produce, and then invest whatever time it is necessary to be educated, to learn. And these days, again, you don't have to go to get a degree for so many things. You've got libraries, you've got YouTube, you've got people who have experience that would be happy to show you. You've got to spend the time to learn if you're going to be a better producer. So that's what I want to share with you today. Again, I told you that's the reason I haven't been on here too much, and I'm instead of making these longer, I'm going to make them shorter because I need to get back to the website here pretty soon. But I want to talk to you about those things. I see we've got somebody on here right now, and I didn't catch who that is, but whoever that is, if you have a comment or question, I can give you a moment or two if you'd like to say something, and if not, then I'll jump off here for now. Just wait and see if there's any comment. Actually, I can look right here and see. Canderful. You're welcome. Thanks for joining me, Troy. All right. Well, I will hope to be more consistent in the future. Bye for now.